So the first thing we're going to address is trying to understand reflections. Now, reflections aren't super important in the rest of photography because often we don't have to deal with them. When we're looking at the scale of products, we really need to understand how the way the light interacts with the textures of the surface of the product. The reason it's really important is because there's a lot of variety in products because there's a lot of different, they're just made of many different materials. Learning how to manage reflections is basically about learning how to flatter the product. So the quality of light affects the way in which it interacts with the actual surface of a product. If we've got a very soft light, it's going to remove any of the details and texture of the product. Whereas if we have a really hard light, in particular one that's called a specular light, this is going to reveal the textures and surface much more. Depending on the texture of the surface, encourages us to make a decision about how we want to treat them. Okay, so the first fundamental concept that we need to look at is the idea of the family of angles. So obviously we know what a reflection is. What the family of angles tells us is the reflection of which light is going to bounce off of our object. When light hits a surface, it reflects off at the same angle it hits it. Family of angles is the zone on the opposite side of the object where the camera is most likely to see that reflected light. Now, if you're photographing shiny or reflective objects like glass, plastic, or metal, placing your light within the family of angles will create a visible reflection or hotspot. If you want to avoid that glare, place your light outside the family of angles. The camera only sees reflections when we're inside the family of angles. So where this gets a bit complicated is, yes, that might be quite easy if we're just talking about shooting a very flat plane, but a three-dimensional object, say like a sphere or a tube, then there's always a point on that sphere or tube. The light coming from the light source will make contact with the subject and bounce directly into the camera, giving us glare or hotspot. Now, there are other techniques that we can use in order to manage this. Understanding reflections will enable us to manipulate them so we always receive a flattering outcome.